Moving on. 2D, discussion of old Matt Shoe building. I don't think it's old Matt. I think it's discussion of Matt Shoe building. I don't know that Matt would like to be called old Matt.
Actually, that's a typo.
It's an old building, not an old Matt.
Just to bring you up to speed, there, of course, we've taken steps to serve them for being in violation of our, being a nuisance violation, of being a P&Z violation. Take your pick. And what we've discovered as we've been going through this process and some correspondence that have been sent back and forth is that the ownership of that property has now passed into the hands of a trust which has no financial status. And they have no assets. So it has been previously, to bring you up a little bit on history, and Laura is here tonight, and she was going to kind of give us a little bit of additional information in her research on this, that it had previously been offered to the city to take possession of the facility, of the location.
I thought it was actually transferred to us.
Yeah, it was. It was actually, they actually tried to transfer it to the city, and the city did not accept it.
We refused it.
We refused it.
Yes. And there is, so now that's a question, of course, that I'm being asked, and so I'm asking for a directive from the council on what action they want me to move forward with, because it has been suggested that may still be an option to us if we're interested in doing it. And if we're not, the problem is we don't see any foreseeable way that that property in its current status is going to get resolved anytime in the immediate, in the long-term future.
They would take action, tell them to take action against them legally?
They don't have any assets.
Did they accept a receipt of the second notice?
No, they did not.
By the sheriff?
No, we stopped when we got the letter information stating that, from an attorney's office stating that that property was
Abandoned.
They're the attorney.
Yeah, the attorney.
No. The attorney does not own it.
The trust does.
The trust does.
Oh, well,
They
that's
transferred
Who owns the trust is under...
So there is a party there is a trust with no assets that's ultimately responsible for the taxes and the upkeep of the property.
Yes.
Can I do that?
They're a lawyer, so apparently it's legal.
I think we need to discuss that with Colin, what we can do.
Yeah, this has been discussed with Colin.
Discussed and
But can we do that? We just jump right to bullet?
Well, if we want to, that's where the direction comes in. And Laura, why don't you talk to us about your previous research so they can have a look.
Back in 2001, Chamber Main Street visited with the council and talked about applying for a Main Street Challenge Grant, which is HUD funding through Main Street, Iowa, to apply for a grant to redo the building. If the city was willing to put up $20,000 at the time, we were awarded a $20,000 grant from Main Street, Iowa to remodel that building, to bring it back to where it needed to be a usable building. Once we were awarded the grant, the council turned it down and said that they were not wanting to own any property in downtown. It was not their responsibility, and it all went away, except for the building, which is growing more and more mold, which the roof is getting worse. I've had several contractors in the building. They have said the roof rafters are rotten. All of the roof rafters would have to be replaced to replace a roof. Basically, all of the interior would need to be gutted. According to the design architect with Main Street, Iowa that I had here, he said that you could demolish the building, but it would actually be a deconstruction of the building in order to protect the integrity of the other two adjoining buildings. So I think it's going to be expensive either way, is what it's come down to. It's not going to be inexpensive to tear the building down because you're going to have to do a deconstruction and get rid of all the material. And you're basically going to have to do most of that anyway to reconstruct it. But you cannot receive grant monies through Main Street, Iowa, to deconstruct a building in downtown. You may possibly receive monies to reconstruct the building in downtown and put it back in the tax rolls. Long-term, for your investment, you would probably be better off going towards the grant money, redoing the building, and keeping it on the, or then selling the building and keeping it on the tax rolls and filling that space in downtown. Now, we have a design through the design committee. Nancy DeFries is also on that committee. We have a design for both. We have a design for the building to have it repaired, and we also have a design for a pocket park. So ultimately, you know, it's the council's decision, you know, if you wanted to take on the building. But either way, from the contractors that I've had in there, it's not going to be inexpensive. What we were talking about back in 2001, just to give you an estimate, was it was at least a $40,000 project just to do the roof, the electrical, furnace and air conditioning, and bring it back to drywall inside.
The concern I have is I've been in it, I looked at it. It is so full of mold that it's a health hazard.
Yes,
You
it is.
can't, and you'd have to get every piece of that out of there in order to get rid of that mold so it wouldn't grow again.
And it does have a partial basement. The back half of the building does not have any basement underneath it. There's a crawl space.
It's so bad.
Thick. I don't know how anybody could ever go in and get it.
I was
I
in
don't
it again
either.
this summer.
It's like you have to wear a mask because you
Yeah.
open the door and it like just overwhelms you.
I
with
know for a
mold.
while we worked with details and actually the Sac City Museum and tried to keep displays in the window, but everything that we put in that window was ruined because of the mold and the mildew in the building. So it's definitely a
I still
hazard.
can't think how a person could just do that legally.
It was a bad investment.
I know of
They
it.
paid the back taxes and they shouldn't have. It was a bad investment on their part and they're walking away from it.
Well, Wenchels owned that building.
Wenchels,
Yeah,
yes,
then he-
used to own that. They took possession of that building when they paid the back
And then they
taxes.
just faked the trust and put it in there with no money in it,
Absolutely.
just like the
It's
corporation.
their way out of it.
There have been people talking to me about wanting properties on Main Street, and there weren't any open buildings, so
And I did talk to Main Street, Iowa, and said, is there such a thing? We have this great opportunity for a neat little pocket park in downtown. If we were to take possession of this property, would there be any grant money available? And he said, absolutely not. Not for demolition of a property in downtown, you won't receive any grant money. As soon as we see demolition, your grant's going to be out the door. He said, if you would like to reconstruct that building, then we could look at a possible grant
Have you
situation.
looked at,
But there are no guarantees on grants.
Have you looked at the Brownsfield program? Just to see if it I mean, it is so bad, to see if it might
No, there's no,
qualify.
and I mentioned this in the actual memo. In my discussions with them, we could get a small amount of money, $3,000 to $4,000, maybe $5,000 from them, if it,
To tear it down.
yes. But the cost, we would not realize a return on all the cost, I guess is what I'm pointing at. We would not,
But we still have the property, and if someone wanted to go in and build on it, they can build in it.
And you're doing it for the
Yes.
health of the community. It really is bad.
Well, if you could get $4,000 or $5,000 towards the cleanup of it, that would be a portion of it.
You said the total estimated cost even for dropping?
I don't
is
have,
about $40,000.
I don't have a cost on the deconstruction. But what I'm saying is, if it costs $20,000 to deconstruct it, or you could put $20,000
No
into it
asbestos in
to
there, is there?
clean it up and reconstruct it, and use that $20,000 to match the other in a grant, then it's better
No,
money
Jim.
spent because it's a reinvestment, and it's a reinvestment in long-term in downtown, in that that property stays on the tax rolls, rather than that property just being demolished and a pocket park brings no money to the county or the city.
Unless somebody would want to build a structure there.
Then it would be a possible empty spot for somebody to build their own structure.
It'd be cheaper
And I
that way.
think
it'd
that's
be
a
cheaper that way.
possibility. I think that's a big possibility.
I guess.
I don't think you should own a building. do you?
No, we don't need to own a building.
my original reason for putting this on the agenda was so that I could get direction from the council on whether or not they wanted me to contact the trust about whether or not the door was still open to possibly take possession of